Hi, I'm Rick Heiniger, and this is my wife Debbie, and we are aboard Eliana, our 76-foot Nordhavn. It's our first boat, and we have just gotten back from Mexico. It was a glorious winter, almost 4,000 miles, and boy did we learn a lot. Um, anyway, welcome aboard. We get a lot of questions about how we got into boating and how we ended up with a Nordhavn and what types of a thought process it was to do that, because I come from a farming background, manufacturing and engineering background, no boating experience whatever, all the way through to retirement. Both Debbie and I had retired, or were in the process of it, and we're looking for not a permanent vacation, but a vocation that we could apply ourselves to in our retirement years. We hit upon the idea of living aboard a boat, even though it was a difficult discussion.
A totally foreign concept for a couple of Midwestern dirt dwellers. So it was a long discussion about the concept, but not all that long of a discussion about the boat that we wanted, because we had some concerns about safety and reliability and company support. And so that narrowed the field of potential purchases down pretty quickly to a Nordhavn. Wouldn't you agree it didn't take us long to narrow in on Nordhavn as being the top choice for us?
No, yeah, and there were several things that went into that. First of all, we were looking for a home.
Right.
We weren't looking at this as a weekend thing or a vacation thing.
Right.
We were looking at it as our home. And so we had to sort of go beyond the coastal cruisers or the smaller boats that didn't have the volume, and we didn't think we'd be comfortable with a sailboat.
Right.
So we did spend some time boating, and we boated in a small Grand Banks, and then also in a Sea Ray, a 40-foot Sea Ray. And we loved the experience of both of those, but it simply told us we wanted something more substantial to be able to do what we were doing. And so
Yeah, when Rick says that he wanted more, what he was trying to say politely is that he was trying to please me in addition to pleasing his adventurous self. And I definitely wanted more. If this was going to be our full-time home, I wanted more amenities and volume than what was really available in either one of those models or brands. Plus, we wanted the ability, if we were going to do this, to not be limited by our boat, which again narrowed it down to Nordhavn pretty quickly, because we felt we could go anywhere in the world in a Nordhavn, and safely and securely. And that would never be our limiting factor on where we chose to go. It would strictly be our schedule or our comfort zone, not the boats. So that's why we chose Nordhavn.
as our home.
Right.
So as we were thinking about how we were going to undertake this different lifestyle, different home, we first had to decide that we had to completely immerse in it. In other words, we couldn't just do it as a hobby. It couldn't be just a temporary interest. We had to completely immerse, and we had to be as professional and as complete with our preparation as we could possibly be. And we felt like if we didn't do that, then we risked not liking it or being dissatisfied with how we were able to do it. It was important to us that that even though it was a little larger vessel, that we'd be able to two-hand the vessel. Mm-hmm. And so that became an objective from the very beginning. It required us both to learn immense amounts before we could start.
Yeah.
And but every day, every meal, every discussion, from waking till going to sleep, was about trying to make ourselves prepared for this adventure. And building of the boat, once the order was signed, the building of the boat lent itself to that sort of a discussion,
Yeah.
because we learned amazing amounts of things about how the boat functions. We talked to dozens of other owners, we boarded other boats, we cruised with other couples in order to see what this really is like, and what how we need to adapt and how we need to have the boat adapt to us.
Right. And we were lucky enough to have some really gracious Nordhavn owners welcome us and let us ask any questions we could think of, and let us open lockers and look in drawers and all of those space planning issues, and well, how do you do this, and how do you live with this? And we were just the recipient of some really good advice, and we were so grateful for that at the time. And we always enjoy talking with other Nordhavn owners that have owned for a long time, and those just thinking about it, because it is a big step, and you do want to be sure, and you do want to know that you're not out there alone, that there are other people who have done this, and that you can do it too.
So the construction process was pleasant for us. We ended up traveling to the factory 5 times, and spent a lot of time working with the people at the factory, and going through the other boats that were in the production line ahead of us, understanding the issues and trying to evolve a good outcome. Then we chose to actually get an apartment and live in Dana Point during the commissioning process. There, and we did that for our benefit more so than anything, so that we could learn the boat and spend more time on her before we actually took delivery. I have to say that was immensely valuable.
Yes.
We learned so much, and by the time we took delivery, we were already very familiar with Eliana. We took delivery, hired a teaching captain to be with us in the first few weeks, and we did that for a level of comfort. But much to our surprise, even in the first hours and days, we realized that Eliana is a boat that's designed specifically for 2 people working together, and it's very, very easy to manage as long as we were focused on it, as long as we were dedicated to it, as long as we were full-time on her. We knew that this was something we could easily handle ourselves.
Right. Even without a lot of boating experience, we realized early on that we could do this. It is not rocket science, and I know we get comments quite frequently about the 2 of you manage that, but the reality is it's no more complex than a 47 or a 55. You still have the same number of systems. It's just that the size of the boat allows you more room to work around in the systems, in the engine rooms, and it's a luxury to work on here. It really is. And the interior cleaning, we've got that down to no problem at all. The one thing we have agreed between the 2 of us to farm out is the exterior washing, because that's not that we can't do it, because we've done it. It's just not how we choose to spend our time. So we've agreed between the 2 of us that that's what we'll farm out. Everything else we've been able to manage ourselves.
From a boat handling viewpoint, Eliana is absolutely forgiving and docile, absolutely predictable. There is no surprises from her. She weighs, she's heavy enough that she's not that affected by wind. Of course, she is affected, and knock on wood, I don't want to act flippantly about it, but I would say that in almost any situation we've seen, she's been very predictable, and very forgiving.
Right.
So we chose Mexico for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it was a good winter destination for us, and it was the timing of the season that helped us choose that. We also chose Mexico because we saw it as a nice training grounds for us. Of course, some challenges, but challenges that we felt we could manage through, and we could make good choices. We felt like it was a place we could make good choices, and so turns out we ended up having a ball, and we ended up so many great places. We met so many neat people. We loved Mexico more than we ever thought. We went into it thinking we were just going to have be practice driving a boat, but in a real, we had a great time. So spent 2 great sessions cruising in the Sea of Cortez, north of La Paz. We ended up with 3 or 4 fairly long passages. Ended up spending quite a bit of time north and south of Puerto Vallarta.
Right. What Mexico allowed for us was to be fairly close to Dana Point and to potential service if we had issues, which we didn't, but not anything significant anyway. But it also gave us a lot of training on surge and open water, things we had never had before, had the opportunity to be exposed to before. So Mexico gave us a wonderful training ground, and now as we prepare to go to the Pacific Northwest, we know that our challenges are going to be different and they'll all be new again, but it is another layer of training and experience that I think that will serve us well in the future.
Some of the challenges we had, as Debbie said, were surge. Of course, protected anchorages are not as common along the Pacific coast, and so we learned a lot about how to select the right spot to stabilize the boat so that we could get the tender off. That was another challenge. We didn't have kayaks, wish we would have had, because that would have made it easier for us to get water mobility when the water was too rough to get the tender off. We found that we really more enjoyed life at anchor more so than life in the marinas, and so we ended up spending almost most of our time was poking our nose into places that we were actually surprised that we even went there, and then surprised at how much fun we had and the people we met and the things we did.
And we stayed.
And we ended up sometimes enjoying it so much, instead of moving on the next day, we were there for a week.
We came upon a little town on the coast of Mexico just simply by trial and error on a day that was rough water, and we were trying to find an anchorage, and that was Chacala, and we ended up spending almost 10 days there the first time we were there, and we had such a good time there with the locals that we ended up going back later in the season and spending another week just because we loved it. It was magical. It was nothing unique or special, certainly nothing that rated a big write-up in the tour guides, but just it appealed to us because it was a real Mexican village and the people were fabulous. So that's the kind of experience that I think that we will have over and over and over again in our cruising life. And that's what makes this lifestyle special. It's the unexpected surprises that come on your way.
We're preparing to go north for the summer. Our plan has been that we follow the seasons. We're moving Eliana north to spend time in the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia, that area. We know we want to spend a little time this fall in the West Coast U.S., but this spring our goal is just to move right up and get to Seattle and then begin our summer there. So we know this is going to be a hard trip, and we don't consider that lightly. We're trying to prepare as well as we can for the trip. We've had quite a little bit of experience in some of our Mexico crossings where we were tackling bigger than normal weather than what we would have liked, but we tackled it and found that we were pretty successful at doing it without too much drama.
Right.
So what we're really hoping and what we've really strive for is to have a boat and ourselves and a crew ready to be able to take advantage of whatever windows are offered to us to make longer moves. We have found that when we have a long ways to go, we prefer to do the longer legs instead of stepping it, and that requires 24 around the clock, and try to take advantage, the best advantage we can, of the best weather windows.
Right.
So for this trip, we've got a crew of another couple that's helping us, so that we can divide the watches by 4. And Eliana is equipped with stabilization, which immensely improves the ride. Because if we turn those off, we can see what happens. The roll is significant.
Right.
With this boat, typically almost no wind chop causes it any trouble. It's because the pitching is minimal. But when we get a lot of swell with high waves stacked on top of the swell, we can, every few minutes, we can hit a pretty good drop, and when that happens, we know we just idle it back a little bit, and she rides right through.
Yeah.
So it's actually been no problem whatever. Of course, the platform is perfect for the electronics, so we had no problems with anything there, and it's got plenty of power if we need it. Just simply nothing that I believe is an issue for the boat.
Right. Yes, and again, after the Pacific Northwest, we haven't really determined for sure what our plans are, because one of the blessings / curses with the Nordhavn is that because your boat doesn't define where you go, you have to make all the decisions. And there are so many places in the world we want to go and we look forward to going to, that we are still determining our future plans with Eliana, but we just know that the boat will be ready, and so we just will be right ready with her.
So we'd like to invite you to stay with us and follow us on our adventures. We do publish a blog called Eliana's Journal, and the website address for that journal is www.eliana76.com, and you'll receive in your email once or twice a month, you'll receive an update on where we're at, what we're doing, and hopefully you enjoy it and can follow along, and we try to share as much as we can. As an aside, I just want to say how proud and happy we are that we chose the Nordhavn brand. Not just because it's a terrific company, but because of the community and the environment that you find yourself in. It's a supportive, it's a learning environment. We have the home that we want. We are enjoying it because of the efforts of a lot of people within Nordhavn and within the whole organization. I can't even imagine that another choice that we might have made would have been better, and nor do I believe that the value that we received, or the value that we would ever receive should we ever decide to sell our boat, I can't imagine it could ever be any better.